People who've been through narcissistic abuse often end up living in chaotic or messy conditions. It's not just about being lazy. There's a lot more going on beneath the surface. Imagine trying to keep your house clean while juggling feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, and a constant need to second-guess yourself. Sounds exhausting, right?
Oh, fucking say something then!
Please don't shout.
Fuck do you think you're talking to? I'll shout if I want to shout!
In this video, we're diving into how narcissistic abuse can impact your daily life and why keeping up with basic chores might seem like a monumental task. Are you ready for number 1? Mental fatigue. Dealing with a narcissist can feel like your brain's been tossed into a blender and turned on high. It's not just a rough day, it's like running a mental marathon that leaves you drained and out of steam. Do you know that feeling where you're so exhausted you can't even muster the energy to do anything but binge watch your favorite show? That's mental fatigue at work. Dr. Judy Rosenberg, a trauma psychologist, puts it perfectly. Narcissistic abuse can drain your mental reserves so much that even simple tasks feel like monumental challenges. When you're constantly dealing with someone who thrives on emotional chaos, it's no wonder you've lost all motivation to keep your space neat. It's not about being lazy, it's about being utterly worn out from the emotional roller coaster of handling a narcissist. Now let's talk about number 2, disrupted routines. When you're dealing with narcissistic abuse, it's like trying to follow a recipe while someone keeps changing the ingredients on you. Your daily routines, including those critical cleaning habits, get tossed out the window. You might start the day with plans to tackle that mountain of laundry, but dealing with a narcissist shatters your focus, and suddenly the laundry is taking over your life. According to Dr. Stephanie Sarkis, a psychotherapist who specializes in trauma, narcissists excel at creating chaos, and that chaos can wreak havoc on your ability to stick to any routine, including cleaning. So if you stare at a sink full of dishes while your to-do list gathers dust, you're not alone. Your routine gets hijacked by the emotional turbulence of living with someone who thrives on instability. We are moving on to number 3. Neglect of self-care. When you're in the whirlwind of narcissistic abuse, self-care can quickly become a distant memory. It's all about surviving day-to-day drama, which means your personal hygiene and home upkeep can slide down the priority list. Dr. Christina Hibbert, a clinical psychologist, explains, when you're in survival mode, basic self-care often takes a back seat to just making it through the day. So if your living space looks like a tornado hit it, you might just be too busy dodging emotional landmines to worry about vacuuming. Let's discuss number 4, disassociation. When you're in a toxic situation with a narcissist, you might start disconnecting from your environment just to cope. It's like your brain hits the snooze button on everything around you, and suddenly the mess piles up without you even noticing. Dr. Judith Orloff, a psychiatrist and expert on emotional self-care, puts it this way: disassociation can make it feel like you're living in a different reality, where messiness and chaos become the norm. So if you find yourself in a living space that resembles a disaster zone, it's not because you've suddenly become a sloth. It's because your brain has decided it can't handle the mess on top of everything else. When you're using disassociation as a coping tool, the reality is that your home might start looking like a set from a disaster movie. Let's keep it moving to number 5. Difficulty prioritizing. When you're experiencing narcissistic abuse, prioritizing tasks can feel like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded. Your brain is overwhelmed, and deciding whether to tackle the mountain of dishes or the growing pile of laundry becomes an epic battle. It's not that you don't care, it's just that your mental bandwidth is stretched so thin that everything seems equally urgent or similarly hopeless. Dr. Nicole LaPera, a holistic psychologist, explains it well. When you're in the throes of narcissistic abuse, your ability to prioritize tasks gets hijacked by the constant emotional turmoil. You shouldn't miss number 6. Isolation. When you're dealing with narcissistic abuse, you might find yourself in a bit of a self-imposed isolation bubble, where the only company you have is a growing pile of dust bunnies. Without friends or family to give you that extra nudge or a gentle reminder that maybe it's time to vacuum, your living space can resemble a neglected storage unit. As Dr. Mark Goulston, a psychiatrist and author, says, isolation makes it harder to maintain routines because you lose the external accountability that keeps you on track. So if you're swimming through a sea of clutter, remember, it's not just about the mess. It's about missing that motivational cheerleading squad. Here comes number 7. Panic and anxiety. When you're dealing with narcissistic abuse, it's like trying to clean your house while wearing blinders and having panic attacks every few minutes. Dr. David Carbonell, a clinical psychologist, says, high anxiety can make even the simplest tasks feel huge because your brain gets swamped with worry and stress. So it's not about being lazy, it's just that your brain is too busy juggling panic attacks and racing thoughts. Dr. Elaine Aron, author of The Highly Sensitive Person, points out anxiety can steal your focus and energy, making it almost impossible to tackle tasks like cleaning. So if your home looks like a disaster zone, it's not a failure on your part. It's just that anxiety has taken over, leaving you focused on just surviving the next wave of stress. Are you still up for number 8? Poor organizational skills. Imagine organizing an exploded closet while someone keeps tossing more junk in there. The chaos from the abuse can make it nearly impossible to figure out where to even start with cleaning up. Dr. Daniel Levitin, a neuroscientist and author of The Organized Mind, explains, when you're overwhelmed by emotional stress, your ability to maintain organization gets severely impacted, making clutter feel insurmountable. It's not just about being disorganized, it's about how the abuse has knocked your ability to keep things in order out of whack. As Dr. Brené Brown puts it, clutter can feel like a physical representation of emotional chaos. When your mind is bogged down by the constant turmoil of dealing with a narcissist, getting your space back in order can feel like trying to clean up a hurricane with a broom. We are moving on to number 9. Lack of routine. When you're living with a narcissist, your routine can feel like a wrecking ball hit it. One day you're following a neat cleaning schedule, and the next your life is in complete chaos. It's like trying to stick to a diet while someone keeps shoving cake in your face. Everything just falls apart. Dr. Margaret Paul, a psychologist and author, says, an abusive environment can mess up your routine so much that even simple tasks like cleaning become almost impossible. So if your cleaning schedule seems to have disappeared into thin air, it's not just you being disorganized. The constant upheaval from living with a narcissist can throw your routine off balance. Finally, we're down to number 10. Cognitive dissonance. Imagine trying to clean your house while your brain is busy debating whether you're crazy or just dealing with a crazy person. It's like your mental energy gets divided between arguing with yourself and dealing with the mess surrounding you. Dr. Carol Tavris, a social psychologist, describes cognitive dissonance as the mental stress or discomfort that arises from holding contradictory beliefs or attitudes. In this case, it's causing your cleaning routine to spiral into disarray. If you're dealing with narcissistic abuse and find it challenging to keep your living space tidy, you're not alone. It's not about being lazy or disorganized. It's often about mentally and emotionally drained from the constant chaos. Narcissistic abuse can mess with your routines, self-care, and even your ability to prioritize tasks. Remember, asking for help and taking small steps toward getting back on track is okay. Be kind to yourself and know that seeking support and making gradual changes can make a big difference. You don't have to do this alone. Small efforts can lead to significant improvements.